So here I am climbing up the hill of Sanchi stupa. So this on this hill, the Sanchi stupa is present, whole site. So there are these steps to climb up the stupa complex. There is a parking up there, but I've decided it's morning time, so I've decided to climb up. I'm staying somewhere very close to base of this hill. There is a hotel called Sanchi Queen, and so yesterday I took the bike up, but morning I'm climbing. Now the entry fee for this stupa is 40 rupees for an Indian, and for a foreigner is 600 rupees. I think kids is 15 rupees. There is a parking up there. All this stupa complex which is here in Sanchi, and there are certain other hills surrounding areas. This sets of complexes of stupa here they are known as Bilsa tops. From the Pali word thupa, it becomes stupa, and from stupa it became tops. So they are all group of Bilsa tops. This place was excavated by British archaeologist Major Call. After that, Sir Cunningham, and then Sir John Marshall. The first excavation happened somewhere in 1860s, 70s, and finally the final excavation and restoration of this place was done by a British archaeologist, the Director General of Archaeological Survey of India at that time. He did excavation from 1912 to 1916, and then he published a report in 1918. And before coming here, I downloaded the whole report. I printed the whole report, and I read the whole report, so to get a better idea of all this site is and what this site has to offer. So here we are at the World Heritage Site, Buddhist monuments in Sanchi. This whole thing is a stupa complex. What you see there is the main stupa here, which is stupa number 1. This site was properly excavated and numbered. Different important monuments are numbered. So that is stupa number 1, that's a main stupa, and this one is stupa number 3. That stupa is believed to have the remains of Gautama Buddha himself, and this stupa, when they excavated, they found the remains of Gautama Buddha's two very important followers, Sariputta and Mahamoglayana. And when they excavated this stupa, from inside they found two relic casket. There are these two vessels in which it was written Sariputta Sa and Mahamoglayana Sa, means belongs to Sariputta and Mahamoglayana. And this is what you see is the north face of the main stupa here, and this is the north gate. When they found this stupa was in a very bad condition. It was all covered by a lot of vegetation and all, but luckily this remained away from the people who were amateur archaeologists or people who were digging around for the lost treasures and the secrets which is beneath the stupa. This stupa remained away from their eyes, this whole site. So luckily this was preserved as it was, which was left how it was built, probably in 2000 and 2200 BC. And when they found this site, this gate was as it is. This gate was standing just the way you see right now. And there are 4 gates on each cardinal direction. This is the north side. That gate is the western gate. This side gate is the eastern gate, and right behind this gate is the southern gate. All these gates have got arches. You can see 3 arches. There are 2 pillars, left and right, and this arches and the pillars have the plates, carvings which were carved 2200 years before, and this depicts the life of Buddha himself, his important events of his life, and also some of the stories related to Buddhism of Jataka stories. This is what it is. So this is stupa number 1. There are small other stupas. This is another important stupa in the complex, which is stupa number 3. Stupa number 2 is down hill from the western gate. There are these monasteries which was conducted during Ashoka Maurya's time. Okay, so I think we'll go to south gate, which is the main gate of entrance from Ashoka Maurya's time, and I'll start explaining whatever I know from that side. Okay, so what you see is the southern side of the stupa. This is a southern gateway. So these stupas are the symbolic representation of the Buddha himself. There was no iconography, there was no humanized form of Buddha in initial centuries once Buddha attained Mahaparinirvana, that is the death of the Buddha. So once he was cremated, his remains, his bodily remains were collected, and it was placed under these monuments which were known as stupas, and this became the place of worship for the people. There are 4 important aspects of Buddha's life. That is Buddha's birth, that happened in Kapilavastu. His father was the king of Kapilavastu, known as Suddhodana. His mother has had a dream, Maya. She dreamed of an elephant flying into her womb, and that birth was interpreted, her dream was interpreted as a birth of probably a greatest king or the greatest monk or philosopher ever lived on earth. Once his birth, then Buddha left the royal palace and went on to gain the enlightenment. He struggled for multiple years, but he gained his enlightenment under a Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya. Then he gave his first sermon, his first preaching, in a place called Sarnath, and the Dhamma Chakra is known as the rotation of the wheels of Dhamma. That is where he first started his teaching, his philosophy spreading around, and then at the end of his life, at around in his 80s, he attained Mahaparinirvana at a place for Kushinagar. So these are 4 important events, and here what you see is the site of a stupa here. Now why this is a southern gate? Because here you can see just at the side of this gate, this pillar, this is the original Ashokan pillar raised by Ashoka himself. And why this was very important, and this is the only gate where you find the Ashokan pillar, and that's why it is important, probably the royal entry gate. And here you can see this is one of the very important chaityas, temples. So probably from here, from the southern side, the king would enter and pray inside the stupa. If you see the parts of the stupa, this is the gateway. Then there is a whole railing around it, which is also made up of stone. This is known as Vedika. Then there is circumambulation path on the top. This is known as Chaitya. So that is known as Medhi, the upper path. Then on the top you see is Harmika, and on the inside the Harmika there is this umbrella-like structure that is known as Chhatra. Now this stupa originally was built by Ashoka, which was brick stupa, which was made up of soil and brick, sand and brick. And what you see is the whole stone, inlay or overlay of that, which was made during Shunga period. So Ashoka was from the Mauryan dynasty. His grandfather was Chandragupta Maurya, the founder of Maurya dynasty, and his Chandragupta Maurya's son was Bindusara, and Bindusara's son was Ashoka Maurya. We all know the story of Ashoka's life from the movie, and he initially was sent to Ujjain. The kingdom of Magadha was Patliputra, and from Patliputra his father had sent him to Ujjain as a governor of Ujjain. From there, during revolt, there was a civil revolt at Gandhara region, and Ashoka was sent to crush that revolt, and he successfully did with a lot of violence, and he came back to Patliputra and claimed the throne for himself. During his stay in Ujjain, he met his wife, that is Devi. She was a daughter of very important person in Ujjain city, and so this area was very important because of that. Now the last king of Mauryan dynasty was a very weak. His name was Bihadrat, and Bihadrat was killed by his own army general known as Pushyamitra Shunga. And Pushyamitra Shunga founded the Shunga dynasty, and they were patrons of Vedic culture, and many stupas were destroyed during Shunga period. But then the third Shunga king, he came here and he restored this stupa. So on the brick stupa, on the top of that, now the stone in overlay that we see, stonework, that was done during the Shunga period. And later on, this was added by early second. This all happened in Shungas and Mauryas were there in BC, like 300 BC to 1st century BC and 1st century AD. And during 2nd century AD, 2nd, 3rd century, 1st, 2nd century AD, this place was again added on the ornaments, like rest of the gates were added on during a dynasty known as Satakarni. One of the very famous king of that dynasty is the Gautami Putra Satakarni. Satakarnis were, matriarchal. They would add their mother's name, like Gautami Putra Satakarni. And then later on in Gupta period, further additions and further modifications in this complex happened. Right, so that was the whole outline, and you see surrounding structure. This is Gupta period structure. Some pillars that you see here, these are the Gupta time periods. Some of them are Mauryan time, some of them are Gupta time. So this site is all dated. The history of this site is from 2200 BC all the way. So there are some of the medieval structures that side, all the way till around 12th century AD. So that's a long history of this place. And I'll try to briefly add whatever I know to this place. Okay, so what you see here is the the lower part of the Ashokan pillar. This was erected by Ashoka himself. Here you can see Ashokan Brahmi. These were the instructions written here on the Ashokan pillar. This was actually about disciplining the Sanghas, that it says something like nobody should try to break the Sanghas and it should discipline, and so and so forth. And whatever the top part of the Ashokan pillar, so there was this 42 feet tall pillar it was, and on the top of that there was a lion capital very similar to that was found in Sarnath, which became a national emblem. And so other part of this Ashokan pillar is here. This is the remnant of the Ashokan pillar. This is in two fragments. It was it was said that some zamindar of this region broke this pillar to have these two parts like a roller to crush the sugar canes and take out the sugar cane juice from it, and he used these pillars for that. And this was the top part. Here you can see, and this is where the capital, the lion abacus, was that circular thing, and on the top of that there would be a capital that would fit into this. In fact, if you see very closely, there are serrations like screwing mechanism in the stone. This is Ashokan pillar, the very famous Ashokan pillar because of the, the polishing, which is known as Ashokan polish. This is like super shiny pillars, super shiny stone pillars, and it must have been. That was USP of the Ashokan pillars, that they are not rough, they are super shiny, they are super polished, and this sandstones were from Chunar mines. Uh, they were brought tons, weighing tons of these pillars were of probably a couple of tons, and they brought them intact, one piece. So as I said, that every arch has a story related with Buddha's life or some important events in Buddha. For example, this panel depicts the Dharma Chakra on a Persepolitan pillar, and you can see the people, they are praying, and on the left and right corner you will see that there are a lot of deers. So this symbolizes the enlightenment of Buddha. Buddha had an enlightenment in Bodh Gaya, and the 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 park where he was meditating was known as Deer Park. So there are a lot of deers, Mrugadiva Deer Park, and an enlightenment is represented by Dhammachakra, and on the top of that you see umbrella, and this was the representation of Buddha at that time. Buddha was not iconographed yet, and his symbols were representation of Gautama Buddha. This panel represents the king, probably Ashoka Maurya himself, and uh, on this panel, if you see here, this is this even has an inscription of the person who donated this part of the pillar, this arch, and this represents the Dharma Rajika Ramagrama stupa, and on the right side you will see that this is all royal procession coming to pray at Ramagrama stupa. This on the chariot, this probably himself the Ashoka Maurya, depiction of Ashoka Maurya in this panel, and you can see here the elephants and the whole procession, royal procession coming here to pray at the stupa. And here this represents the clan of Nagas, and they are there to worship the Buddha, because Buddha here is represented as a stupa here. So this is the western gate, and on the top arch drive, what you see are the first, second tree, third, fourth stupa, 5 tree, 6 stupa, and 7. These are the 7 tree. These are the 7 Buddhas. This Gautama Buddha was the 7th one. 6 Buddhas came before him. This represents 7 Buddhas. This panel represents the enlightenment of Buddha, and how people from all around, including the kings and the animals, have come to worship him. See here. And this panel represents the Jataka story about the six tusk elephant. And very interesting Jataka story is here again, as you can see here. Right. So here, this you see here in this panel. So this is the river that flows down, and on the top of the river there is this mango tree, and the king tasted these mangoes down the stream of the river, and they were so sweet that he wanted all the mangoes. He went up the stream and found this mango tree, and but there are a lot of monkeys eating mangoes from the tree, and they wouldn't give it away. So he ordered his archer to aim at the monkey, and you can see the chief of the monkey, what he did was he created a bridge between the monkey tree as himself and to the rock shelter nearby, and all the monkeys were crossing that. One of the disciple of Mara, that is the you know, the bad symbolization of the evil in Buddhism. He is one of the follower of the Mara. He he jumped onto this monkey and broke his back, and then the monkey had fallen down, and in the next panel you can see the monkey and the king both are talking to each other, and then king asked monkey that, why didn't you save yourself, and when the archers were trying to aim and you let all other monkeys go away and escape. So it is then he said that, as a chief, as a king of the monkeys, these are my duties to save my people. And so this is that Jataka story that is represented here in this panel. Very beautifully carved, very nicely done. So all these panels here, they depict the life of the Buddha, they depict the stories around Buddha, the stories of Buddhism, so on and so forth. And this is the Gautam Buddha represented as a Bodhi tree, and all the people are worshipping Buddha here. And you can see some angels from the heaven have come down, some mythical animals like griffin, here you can see they have come down, and these people, they are trying to worship Buddha. Same scene again in the next panel, and here you can see the lion, tri-lion faced motif. And very interestingly, this also shows the inscription of the person who donated this pillar, who donated for the carving of this pillar. So everywhere, every stone has let's say here has some inscriptions. Here you can see this inscription mentioning the donor here, mentioning the donor. So here you can see that. Yes, this also, there are these inscriptions. And very interestingly, here also you can see the inscription of the name of the person who donated for this pillar. And probably here is the name of that person. Wait, hold on. Okay. So here is the name of that person, and in the end, this is Brahmi script. This is the, this is na, and the dot here. So danam. Every inscription here in the end, there's this word which is written as danam. Everywhere danam is repeated, and this is the name of the person who donated it, and this is danam. Let me show you in the stone inscription. If I can find very close by, there are some above, some are more weathered, and here you can see again the, na, and dot, danam. So name of the person, and this is danam. Yeah, so interestingly, every part of this structure was donated by people, and they say that there was horde of people who wanted to donate for this complex. And here also there are certain motifs here. Let me get a better angle if I can show you. Okay, so this is another very interesting panel here. So this is where the Buddha is represented as a Bodhi tree, and there are the worshippers here. But very interesting thing is, there is this one worshipper here with a very different headgear on the top, and the similar headgear is repeated on the lower panels, very similar headgear. And so who this person is was you can see here again here, and so we can make out who the person is, but this is the part that gives the idea of the person. This is the dream of Maya, Buddha's mother, and this is when she dreamed of an elephant. So this scene is from Kapilavastu, his birthplace. And so this means that this person, who is very important person in such an intricate headgear, this is his father Suddhodana. And once Buddha attained enlightenment, it was his father, the king Shuddhodana of Kapilavastu, went to welcome him back into Kapilavastu. And so this is where his whole possession of people went and received him, welcomed him into Kapilavastu. You can see two-story building, wooden carved building, and the story goes by that the story that who would welcome whom first, who would bow down to whom first, whether the Buddha or the king. But then here is where in Kapilavastu the Buddha created a miracle of flying in the air, and that is depicted by, if you see, here is the representation of Buddha, and all these people are looking up in the air, the same headgear. And so this is the King Suddhodana, and this is when, once the miracle was performed, that is when it is the king who bowed down and welcomed the Buddha himself. Very interesting panels. These are all the panels that depicts the life of Buddha. Okay, so this is the western gate, and you can see 3 arch drives on the top. Very interesting panels again here on the top of the arch drive. So here, this is a city. The people are in the houses, and everybody is outside because they received a news of uh, the Mahaparinirvana of Buddha. Buddha had passed away, and you can see here. So that happened in the uh, Kushinagar, and you can see all the kings, the Mallas of Kushinagar, were coming here to collect the relics of the Buddha himself. And this is the full army of Mallas coming here to collect the remains of the Buddha. So in the next panel, what you see here is the war for the relics. Now, once the news spread of Buddha's Mahaparinirvana, so rest of the kingdoms, they came here to collect the remains of the Buddha, and they stood outside the gates of Kushinara, and with their whole army. And here you can see that. So every umbrella represents the king. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 umbrellas. So 7 kingdoms came here. There were 8 Mahajanpadas. So 7 Janpadas came here to collect the relics, and they were ready to fight a war against the Mallas of Kushinara. And here this probably represents on the chariot the Ajatashatru, the son of Bimbisara, who was the big patron of Gautama Buddha in around 500 BC. And so this is the war relic. And then later on, the Mahakashyapa, Ananda was Buddha's disciple, and he waited for Mahakashyapa to come, and Mahakashyapa came and divided the relics where the mullahs were not ready to give away. But then with talks, the relics of Gautama Buddha's body relics were divided into 8 equal parts, and one was also kept by Drona, the Brahmin, who divided the body parts into equal portions. And then they all went back and founded the first great stupas, 8 great stupas. In the next relic, what you see here is the here you can see the Bodhi tree. So this represents the Bodh Gaya and the temple that was erected by Ashoka Maurya. And here this probably is the Ashoka Maurya praying to the Gautama Buddha in the form of tree, that is Bodhi tree, and on the top there is umbrella. And so this is the good versus probably here you can see the evil. And this is the it is said that during when the Buddha was meditating under the Bodhi tree, that is people tree, and there was this Buddha's the devil known as Mara. She tried to break his meditation. She tried to tempt him. So the temptations of Buddhas were there, and he crossed over temptations and attained enlightenment. So here you can see the army of Mara. These are the dwarf evils going back with their going back with their queen Mara. All lost their battle, and they couldn't fight against the strength of the Buddha. So this is very interesting panel here. So this is the north gate, and another very important panel description here is there. So this top panel is again Chand Jataka, the elephant Jataka story. But the middle panel is very interesting. This is known as Temptations of Buddha. Here you can see Buddha is represented as a Bodhi tree, and probably in Bodh Gaya, and this is this golden throne, diamond throne below it. On the left of it, there is this one lady. She's having the meal in her hand. So probably she represents Sujata, who offered a last meal, or the meal to Buddha before he went into the Mrigdawa, that is the deer park, for meditation and enlightenment. And here in this same panel in the center, there is this a lady and here you can see there are these evils are there. So this is the Mara, and she tried to break the Buddha's meditation by tempting him, and the other female characters probably represent the Mara's daughters that she offered to Buddha one by one, and could not break his could not break his meditation, and could not tempt him from attaining an enlightenment of Buddhism. And these are the very beautifully carved evil of human life, different temptations. They all represent different types of temptations that humans can have in this life, the temptation that we need to be away from. So this is a very beautiful panel here, and below that there is another interesting Jataka story of a guy who who was very big Danveer. He would donate everything, and here you can see he went to some, I don't remember name of the hill. Here you can see he and his wife, they are living in that hut in a hill. These are his two children, and they are playing here in that in that nice place. And then since he donated one by one everything, his wealth, yeah, he was probably a king or prince, he donated everything. And then he even donated, here you can see he is donating his two children to one Brahmin. And then so this upper three animals represents the lion, tiger, and leopard. They are also the three soldiers of Mara, keeping his wife away from this guy. And then here you can see the Brahmin taking away the children, beating away with them with the stick, taking them away. And he was a bodhisattva. And then later on the god Indra came himself, and seeing his dedication of donations, that he could donate everything, gave back his wife and son and everything, everybody was intact. And this is the last panel that depicts the children back with the mother and the father and grandparents and all. So this is another one of the Jataka stories depicted here on the north gate. So this is again the south gate, and here again there is a relic depiction of the war of the carving depicting the war of the relics. Here you can see in this. So this is probably city of Kushinagar, and here you can see the armies of other Majanpadas have come, trying to force their entry and trying to force the Mallas of Kushinara to give the relics of the Buddha. This is very intricate, very beautiful, and hold on. So this people in are inside the safe wall of Kushinara, but then we know that the relics were divided equally, and in the his army, and in the right corner of this relic you can see here, and these people are walking back, and the kings are walking back, and here you can see a relic casket that has been taken away to establish their stupa there. So this statues of Buddhas on four cardinal direction was laid later on, probably in the Gupta period, because in the early centuries, in early times of stupa and Buddhism, the Buddha was not represented as a human figurine. It was later on, and so probably 3rd to 4th century, or maybe little later also. And here this is the beautiful calm face of Buddha, and you can see the celestial beings coming to offer, and these are the attendants of the Buddha. Beautiful. So this is another one of the statues of Buddha. This one is right in front of the southern gate, and you can see how beautifully the carving was. This is in Gupta's time, and I think the background hello is known as Amlaka. I'm not very sure. I need to correct it. But you can see here the clothes, the fine cloth design. So that was covering the body of the Buddha is also shown here. You can see the sleeves. And probably this is the Dhyan Mudra, meditation mudra, and two attendants at the side. So what you see here is the plaster. The original plaster that was covering the whole of the stupa is almost 6-inch thick plaster made up of crushed bricks and the glues and natural glues, wooden glues and all, and part of it still remains. Some of it has disappeared over time. So this is the plaster that I was talking about. So this plaster was covering the whole of the stupa. You can see the thickness of this plaster, right? And this is crazy. This is 2200-year-old plaster. The fragment of it still intact here, covering the stupa. So this is the monastery for the monks, and here is a water tank. This is to the western side of the main stupa, and there are small chambers inside with the central courtyard. This is where small chambers are made for the monks to stay, were made during Ashoka Maurya's time. So this must be the central courtyard, and these were the small chambers for the monks to reside. And a very strong stone structure built during Ashoka Maurya's time, and this probably must have wooden pillars on the top of it, and this probably were the verandas, and wooden pillars, and on the top of wooden pillars wooden shacks, the coverings. And here, because I can see here, so this is the stone with the hole inside, so this is where probably the wooden pillars were stacked on the top of that. And somewhere here they must even be placing the symbolic structure of Buddha, a people tree, or for the prayers. So this is the part of the monastery that was built 2200 years before now. Just behind this monastery, a very important structure is there. You can see this is the monolithic stone bowl. This must be the entryway to come for the for the villagers to come and pray at the stupa, and it's believed that every monk would go and bring bhiksha. Even the visitors would come and bring food as a bhiksha for them. Everything would be put into this single stone bowl and would be consumed by the monks after that. So this is a very interesting monolithic stone bowl that is placed here just behind the monastery. So now continuing west from the monastery, this trail leads to the stupa number 2, and in the stupa number 2 they found the relics of 10 very important Buddhist teachers of early times, and their bodily relics were preserved here, and they found 10 of them in one stupa by Sir George Cunningham. You can imagine the path in old days, climbing up from this hill. Now this path only leads to stupa number 2. So there is a small water tank here, and that is stupa number 2 that you see here. So this is stupa number 2. So this is from where I came down from the monastery western side and reached here this trail. So as I was saying that before coming here I prepared myself for almost a week, and this is the book that I downloaded and got it printed by a guide to Sanchi by Sir John Marshall. This is almost 200-page book. As you can see, my hard work, that it was like every gateway and uh, what you see in front of each arch trive, that is the arch top, middle and bottom, what that each arch trive represents, the motif there, and what is there on the pillar, arch trive front and back, and then pillar in front and the side and the back. And so that's how it became very interesting for me, knowing the whole history, even the site, what every pillar of the stupa, what every part of the stupa represents. And so it became very interesting for me. And yes, before going forward, I saw this one. So this was actually in the condition in which originally the stupa was discovered, with a lot of foliage and trees all around, and part of it was broken. So yeah, so I'm looking around and I'm enjoying this. So right now, probably in this whole stupa complex, there are not more than 4 or 5 people in the morning. Right now it's around 8 o'clock, and I came here by 7 o'clock. Such a peaceful place, such an amazing place this is. What you see here is a most striking feature. This is temple number 17, and this is believed to be the oldest standing temple, architecturally temple of India. This was during Gupta period, and this is what laid the foundation of later all the temples that was built under the religion of Hinduism. And this is the first temple, and this is the prototype that was created here during Gupta period in 3rd and 4th century. And you can see here very simple architecture. There is no shikhara, there is no top like dome like structure or a pointed structure. The only thing is there is mandapa, there is entrance, lobby, and there is a garbhagriha. And this is where the temple architecture started, and rest of all the temples that were built later on became the modification style from this. This probably was made as a Buddhist temple. This probably housed a Buddha statue inside, which is not there anymore. But you can see a very simple outline of a temple. This type of pillars, these are known as Persepolitan pillars. This is the inverted lotus that you see here, a lotus-like structure, and on the top of the pillar there are these small capitals placed by above the animal motifs. Very simple, but this is where the temple building art started. Temple number 18. Here you can see a very grand long pillars of an apsidal temple. This is around 5th to 6th century, but they say that this was built on the existing platform or base of Ashokan time temple, a very similar style. And this reminds me of those ruins of Persepolis. And they say that these are the pillars that are standing. They're standing on the ground. They're not going deep inside the base. They're just standing there. And if you see the structure, they are broad at the base and they taper to the top, become narrow. And they're supported by probably these top columns. And so this was probably originally an Ashokan time temple or a Shunga time temple. And from here the king would straight away enter into the stupa from the southern gate inside. And this apsidal means this is half moon shaped curved. And this kind of pillars we also see in all the rock cut caves that we see in Maharashtra region. They all have similar pattern of pillars standing, but they are all stone carved. They are carved inside the stone, the caves, but very similar design of apsidal ends in the end. And in the center, probably here also there must be a stupa in the center of this for the prayers. This is probably later on, I did later. So this is the whole area. Yeah, very important. Temple number 17, the oldest standing temple in India. Temple architecture. This is where it started. How basic it is, but the proportions are so beautiful, so nice. And this is where the temple building started from here. It is this place. So there are other pillars also here surrounding to this region. So this is pillar 25. This had a lion capital. This is pillar 26. This is Gupta period. The previous one is around 2nd century BC. The base here is of the square, so that is a very typical of Gupta pillars. And so small multiple stupas here. Gate of the stupa, and when you climb up the steps, you reach on this platform terrace. And here also some of the structures. So this is some of the structures are built up on the older structures. Some of them are medieval time on the ancient structures, old monasteries. And when you come inside, these are all the fragment of beautifully carved ancient stones scattered all around. They were all scattered around. Now they are collected here and put up here, and these are hundreds and hundreds of them all around. This was also part of the monastery. So much of our heritage is still just lying here to be discovered and deciphered. What was this part of? So as you can see, every plaque, every inscription is cleaned with water, rubbed clean every single day. And there also you can see all the people are cleaning the whole site. This side also. This side is absolutely clean and spick and span. Here also you can see it is just clean. So this is still wet. This is also still wet here. I will just request everybody who comes here to keep the site clean, because there are people who are working for it in the north gate. So this is a tree right in front of the entrance gate of Sanchi stupa. This tree is actually from the sapling of the original tree at Bodh Gaya, under which Siddhartha attained enlightenment and became Buddha. So they have made a small shrine here. Of Buddha. And this is the same people tree which is from the generations of the sapling of the original Buddha tree.